right, thanks everyone for joining us at Hawk Ridge Systems. Today we've got another great webinar for you. We're going to talk about centralizing your data and collaborating across your organization. So with us today, we have David LaFife, and David's our PDM product manager based out of the Calgary office up in Canada. David has years of experience in the energy, automotive, and aircraft industries, and he's really passionate about finding ways to improve design and manufacturing by implementing tools to improve data management and streamline processes. Now, when he's not busy setting up replicated servers, you can find David climbing, hiking, or skiing in the Rockies. He's quite the outdoorsman. And if you can't see him, you'll definitely hear him because his laugh is so contagious. Also with us is Scott Woods. And Scott's our product manager for the SOLIDWORKS Technical Communications Suite. So this includes such tools as the Composer for technical pubs, Visualize for magazine-ready renderings and animations, Inspection that you'll see today, as well as the model-based definition tools. He has over 20 years of SOLIDWORKS experience and holds a degree in both technical and visual communications. Now, Scott spent years working in the technical communication roles as a technical writer and then a 3D animator, giving Scott a unique perspective on the best ways to improve processes using modern technology. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, David.
Hey,
Scott.
everyone.
Hey.
So let's take a look at the agenda that we're going to cover and dive right into it. So we've got a pretty fun presentation, I think, for you. David's going to start off talking a little bit about utilizing PDM as the central repository for all of your data. And then you'll see them run through a scenario involving the design and quality departments. David will create a drawing as an engineer. He'll submit that drawing to the quality group, and Scott will be playing a role of somebody in the quality department generating an inspection report. You'll see that inspection report go through its own approval step, and you'll also see how the data from the inspection, the measurements, get passed back into that inspection report. So you'll be seeing how we leverage SOLIDWORKS PDM in both the CAD and the inspection tools and see this release process.
All
So
right.
David, you're gonna lead us off here and play a little bit of a designer and cook up a drawing for us.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Tim. Hi, everyone. I'm just gonna give you a little outline of what I'm gonna do, and then I'll jump right into it. So first, I want to, give you an idea of the, why PDM is the right place for centralizing your data, going through vault visibility, folder structure. Then I'll add a drawing. I'll add some info to the data card. Check in that drawing, and then send it through the workflow. So that's kind of like the whole process that I want to do here. So first off, I'll, for those of you guys that are not familiar with PDM, PDM works on Windows Explorer. So opening a folder like this one here, I have those blueberry icons on the left here. Those are my vaults. If I go on my multi-project, the one I'll be using today, I can log in as myself right now, and then get into that environment. So it's a similar environment that you're used to. The folders are green instead of yellow, but basically can browse through my projects. Once I get through a folder structure, I can actually standardize that folder structure. Once I get into, let's say, my CAD files, this is where I have all these CAD files here, just like I would be browsing a shared folder or something like that. But you're in a vault environment. What I want to talk about a little bit is first why it's important to centralize your data. First, when we're talking about having different departments accessing data, right now it's really hard on a shared folder to find the right version or revision. Things are not controlled very tightly. The second thing is, that inspection report might be on Scott's desktop, or it could be somewhere I don't have access. So that's why that's important to centralize the data. Now, the other part of this is why PDM is the right place to centralize that data. I think it all starts with having different capabilities into PDM. Let me show you a couple of them. First, the groups, right? So you have users, you create users, but then you put them in different groups. I can create as many as I want. You see right now I have a very simple set of groups: administrators, designers, inspection, project managers, viewers, those kind of things. So I'm able to put people in different roles, you know, as an inspector, as a designer, and then I can play with their visibility, what they can see in the vault, what they can do, at what stage of the maturity of the files they can interact with it. So that basically brings us to the workflow. So the workflow is very important in PDM because that allows us to, you know, map the process that that is important to us or to your company. So when we're talking about interdepartmental communication, I can create a flow where I would have a concept and a design review, for example, on my engineering side, but then I would push it, you know, for quality assurance. I would push it for an inspection, which an inspector would review, and then I would fully release for manufacturing, or, you know, something like that. So I can really tailor that the way I want. Those are not pre-made workflow. You can come up with the workflow you want. So creating, let's say, a state would not be really complicated. Just a right click and transition, you know, from here to here. So as you can see, you know, very easy to map your process. Inside those processes, inside that process that I have here, I have different things happening, and I think that's important to talk about that. You know, those little bell icons, there are notifications. So I can send notification to, you know, my inspector or my inspection team to know where the files are, you know, when I send that to them. Because they're in my vault, but they will get an hyperlink, and you'll see that in the example. The other thing I can do is map some information. I can map the approved by, the approved date, increment my revision. I can have a lot of automation happen through that workflow. And then, you know, once I get to a completed stage, I have not entered all the information. Some is just coming from the workflow. So that's a huge advantage when we're talking about processes that are across the organization. Now,
Hey,
that's
David,
a lot of, oh, yeah, Tim, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention one of the things I hear a lot of folks that use PDM is they use it to actually create content, right? That's an option with the transitions. We can have it generate stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we're able to do, let's say if I want to add a release point, if I want to generate a PDF, one of the action that I can add is, you know, a task to convert something to a PDF or to a certain other, you know, format. I can do I can do DXF, I can do step files, I can do all of these pretty easily. So if I look at this little task here to convert, all I have to do is choose what kind of conversion I would want to do, and then I'll show that later in the example.
Very good.
So, so if I jump back in my environment here where I have my files, now I'll just put on my my little designer hat, and I'll just show you an example of how easy it is to use the vault and to start my my project in there and put my files. So first off, like I said, if I want to standardize my project, I can use a template feature inside of PDM, which lets me you know, create my next project in line. I can just say, let's say this time our inspection project will be a bevel gear. So I'll enter that, and maybe project description, inspection. So this will, you know, create the next project in line. It looks like I consume already my number 3 project, which is using the counter inside of PDM. So I'm generating automatically the next counter, so I can use that numbering scheme to auto generate. And if you look inside that bevel gear project right now, you know, I have this same set of folders that I had in all my other projects, so I standardized that. And then, you know, I can use that to bring my file. So I have a, you know, a drawing and a part here that I can just bring in. You can see that I'm using Windows Explorer features, drag and drop, copy, paste, save as from the original application. Those are all things that you can use right now, you know, with PDM. So I just brought my files in. I can see that I have a bevel gear here. Another big thing is the custom property that you have in your files shows up on the data card here. So that information not only capture what's in your custom property, but can capture what comes from the workflow. You can search all of that through the search tool inside of PDM. So there's a lot of capability around the information inside here. The other thing is the preview. So you don't need the original application to view those parts and drawings. So that's another big part of different departments. You can be in quality assurance and not have SOLIDWORKS, for example. And if you don't have SOLIDWORKS, you can still get into PDM, use eDrawing Professional as a viewer. It comes embedded into PDM, and you can start, looking at what I just imported, the date, who's drawn it, there's no description, there's no material on it. I can look at that. Now, if I want to add that information, it's pretty easy for me to go in the data card and start adding description, small bevel gear. And then maybe aluminum. We can write that straight. We're gonna build this part, and let's say it's a $7, cost, estimated cost. I'm just making it up right now. So this is nice. I can put that information, save that in here. That becomes searchable, but that also, like I said, is integrated with the custom property. So why don't we go and just open those two files inside of SOLIDWORKS and take a look at these guys. So I have my drawing here. As you can see, this is the drawing I was looking at on my on my preview inside of PDM, and I have my bevel gear here as my model, right? So let me jump back to my drawing. So my drawing right now has the information that I put in my model. So this is the integration between the custom property. You can pull that information. I'm not rewriting that information multiple times. Put it in PDM, integrates custom property, small bevel gear, aluminum, and then you'll see that as I'm going through the approval process in my workflow, I'll start filling up the drawing with who checked it, approved it, did the QA, and the date behind it. So now I'm gonna put this through the workflow. But before I do that, I'm gonna, I'm looking at this drawing, and I remember I had a question for my friend in QA. So I didn't know if I needed this measurement here. So I'm gonna use one of my communication tool from our company. I think a lot of companies have those kind of communication, like quick communication between colleagues. So I'm gonna say, hey Scott, whoops. There you go. You need this. You need this measurement. Let's just pretend Scott's not listening to me right now. All right, so he needs it. So this is a good example where communicating with Scott on different things I need to do. Okay, he needs that for inspection. Great, that's a great tool for quick information. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use PDM to map the steps that the official steps. So right now, if I was gonna put that file in that communication tool, that would be a mistake, because then this is not control. I can't control the revision. I can't control who's doing what to the file. This is why I think it's important to understand, like, PDM might not be the right tool for quick asking Scott if you need that measurement, but PDM is the right tool if you want to map the steps, if you want to having official records, audit trail, that kind of stuff. So I'm just gonna put the quick measurement that Scott wanted right here. Whoops, I'm not dimensioning right now. Keep in mind, I'm a data management guy. I'm gonna put a tolerance on that, something in these lines. All right, there we go. All right, so from this interface here, from SOLIDWORKS, I'm able to do all my operation. So I can check in my file from here. This is great. I'm gonna check in those two. I'm done basically. And then I'm gonna send this to my workflow. All the comments that I leave throughout the check-in and the workflow, those are all going to be passed on, you know, the audit trail, and I can show you later how this is all mapped. But I'm going to send it, you know, for a quick design review. Small company can do their own review. I'm going to do that. I'm going to, you know, maybe notify myself, maybe not, maybe leave a comment for this or not, because I'm going to do my own review. I'm not going to leave a comment. But once I send it to inspection, what I'll do is this time I'll leave a comment, because I'm going to send it to inspection. And this time I want Scott to know about this. So I'm going to notify Scott. I'm going to say, you know, inspect bevel gear. And then I'm just going to tell him that I need this ASAP. And then here we go. This is in my add-in here. I'll see that my file is now in the stage of approved for inspection. And then I officially submitted that to Scott. And then I even have a revision that got incremented here to Rev A. It actually made his way to the drawing. So my part as a designer is done. I'm gonna wait on Scott to respond to that and do his job.
Okay.
Right. So what I just saw, David, was you showed the PDM interface, which is built on top of Explorer, and you talked about some of the advantages in terms of additional capabilities inside the PDM environment with respect to permissions and sharing and so on. You added some data. You demonstrated some custom property information, how that became searchable and modifiable outside of SOLIDWORKS. And now that you've completed the drawing, you've submitted it to another group, to Scott, and Scott's going to get a notification, and he's going to get to see that file without copying that file, without emailing it or anything else.
That's right.
Awesome. Scott, let's see what happens when you get that notification and pick up generating the inspection report.
Okay, well, before I jump into my little spiel here, I actually do have a notification that I heard just come in. So let's take a look at that. And so there's my notification from David letting me know that this is ready to start the inspection process. Before doing that.
Hey Scott, one
Yep.
thing to mention, I just want to throw this out there for anybody listening. That notification was sent through a database notification system, but it's more common for these notifications to get sent through your email client. So you've got some options there on how you want to transmit that message to the recipient.
Yep, and when you do get the little pop-up, just not through email, you actually get a little noise. So you kind of tune yourself into whenever you hear that, you're like, oh, I got a notification, you just go check. But yes, totally right there. So exactly, sounds like a spring. Okay, so before I jump into the inspection process on this component, I just want to talk a little bit about what inspection is. So SOLIDWORKS inspection is a tool that will help you generate your FAI reports, your first article inspection reports, and you can actually use it in two different methods, so two different ways. There's an add-in for SOLIDWORKS that works directly with your SOLIDWORKS drawings, SOLIDWORKS parts, and then there's a standalone version that works with PDF files. It can also work with your SOLIDWORKS drawings. You just need to export that from SOLIDWORKS, and then you bring that to the standalone and finish the report there. So getting into inspection, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check this drawing out of the vault. I'm going to then run the inspection add-in on it, and that's going to automatically balloon that drawing. And I have a few different ways I can go about doing that. I'll kind of explain that as I go through, using some templates and some industry standards. Then I'm going to go ahead and push out the full report in Excel and a balloon PDF. And the key there is that we're using Excel. So anything you can do in Excel, you can do with this report before or after you create the report. You can create a template that controls everything, and then after you push it out, if you want to add some stuff in there, pages, cells, whatever it is, make tweaks or modifications, you can do that as well. And of course, everything is going to be stored within the vault. So switching over to SOLIDWORKS, I got my notification. It's ready to start this process. What I'm going to do is open this up. go ahead and log into the vault. Same structure that David had. And I'm going to check out that drawing. There you go. I'll check out the part 2.
It's got that checkout process. That's just how you get access to actually modify, to save the file, and it keeps a version before and after when you make those changes, enabling you to kind of understand how it evolved into the state it's in, and also to roll back should you need to go back to a previous version.
Yep, awesome. Yep, totally. Good explanation of that. But yeah, so basically if you don't check it out, you get a read-only copy. By checking it out, it gives you the ability to make changes and then update that later. Okay, so here is the drawing. Now, for me to start the inspection process on this, again, just a recap there, I'm using a SOLIDWORKS inspection add-in. This works directly within the SOLIDWORKS drawing. So I'm able to read in all that intellectual data that's at the part level, at the drawing level, and it helps automate this process. And then next, I'll show the standalone that works outside of SOLIDWORKS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a template, and inspection comes with several different kinds of templates. This template that I'm going to use right now is just to start the process. We can actually fully modify this template, so future projects that we have, we can automatically pull in data. This has all your industry standard formats for PPAP and AS9102. So I'm going to go and just use the default one, just so we can kind of start from scratch and show how a template's actually created. And just like David was talking about all that custom property data that's at the drawing level, at the part level, I can reference that here. So I say, hey, I want to pull part name. This right now is pulling from the drawing. I switch over to the part. I can do configurations, and I can just say, hey, the part name right there. So that's the name of the part. It's pulling data directly from SOLIDWORKS, so there's no room for like typing in something and messing something up. And that really is the value of inspection. So today, we work with a lot of different companies, and what we see a lot happening is actually a lot of manual entry into Excel or Word, or even printing out drawings and using a pen to balloon them out, and take a piece of paper and writing down the tolerances and results. And there's just so much room in that process for something to go wrong. One little spelling error, one little mistake, and you're hundreds of thousands of dollars into a project that is doomed for failure because it was just a mistake, human error. This helps or really eliminates the possibility for human error as long as that data is correct, and SOLIDWORKS is going to be correct here. So everything flows downstream. We got part number. I can go and pull that in. So let's go ahead and say, yep, there's my part number. And I can go to the list and just pull in a bunch of, oop, that is not my part number. Let's do that. Let's do that. This guy here. Oops. Part number. My part name was incorrect. And right there. So see, no room for human error. I just clicked the wrong one. Okay, so we pull in the data directly from there, and I can go down the list and keep filling that out, pulling data directly from SOLIDWORKS. By the way, these are linked now. I'm creating a template, and so next project, it would automatically create that link with those custom properties, eliminating the possibility of human error at that point. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and add a custom property. There's a whole list of items here that I can pull from, or I can type in my own. Didn't mean to do that. Let's go ahead and say drawn by. And now I can either key something in there, or I could pull data from that part or drawing. And we're just going to go ahead and say drawn by. There we go. Going down the list here, we can choose how this drawing is ballooned. Kind of the default, or I guess the standard that I think most companies are using is like a clockwise motion for those balloonings. So that would kind of start the balloons here, and you get 1, 2, 3, all the way down. Kind of think about the 1 o'clock being where the 1 starts, and then the 10 o'clock being wherever we're going to end as a clock. Now I could change this to well, counterclockwise, but also choosing none and doing a manual method. So after I run this report, it's going to store all the data, and then I would click on each dimension and it would create a balloon for that dimension, allowing us to set this up for a seamless CMM process. And if you're unfamiliar with what that process is, let's say your CMM is programmed to say, well, this is the first one's going to be measured, then we're going to do this one, then we're going to do that one, and then this one, maybe it's in a priority list. You could balloon it in that order. So when you send it to the CMM, the results that come back match up 1-to-1 based on the number, and that just makes the whole process later on for after the results are found seamless. Or we could do it based on the nominal value and the tolerancing and all that other good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and leave this one automatic. We will populate everything, and then we'll just remove what we don't want. For sampling, you can choose what your sample lot size is going to be, and then what that type is. So that's just saying, you know, for this lot, we're going to do X amount, and maybe we'll do 3 or 4 lots before we actually approve this for manufacturing. All right, so next little section before we wrap this up, we're going to say, what are we including? I'm going to say include everything, but you could, inside the SOLIDWORKS drawing, if David would have marked some of these for inspection, then here I could just say, hey, just inspection only, and it would only inspect those ones. So it makes, again, it just depends on your workflow, the way that you want to operate. But if you wanted to use the add-in, let's say the engineer is actually doing this portion in the SOLIDWORKS inspection add-in, which is a viable workflow, then they could just mark things for inspection, hit inspection only. That would complete the process. We could then save that out in the standalone and push that to the QA department to wrap it up and add the results. So that's another way that this can work. We're going to go ahead and say that we want to include notes, we want GD&T, whole tables, anything in here that's checked, it will locate and it will add that to the bill of characteristics. And just the last tab here is tolerancing. So I can do this by precision, by range. I can modify these if I wanted to change for decimal place entry and what that tolerancing is going to be. And then if you look at the dimensions, anything that has a tolerance built into it, it's going to use that by default. So that's how I control how this is going to be set up and completed. Hit the checkbox. It takes all that data that I just did, plugs it with the drawing, and it creates my full FAI report, which is pretty amazing. I got a whole list here of my my bill of characteristics. I have all my properties for each one of those items. Everything is ballooned, and we can still go through if you wanted to clean this up. I know that, you know, we become artists, right? We get our drawings and ballooning and have a very specific way we like to do things. I look at things sometimes and I'm just like, even if it's fine, it still bothers me because it's not exactly how I would have done it if it wasn't done automatically. And we can still go through and modify that if we're picky, just like that. And let's say I didn't like the color or the font or the shape of the balloons, I can actually edit those as well. So for instance, if I wanted to come in here and just say, let's make that a hexagon. Change the shape of all the balloons. Okay. Now this can be a template. That would be just say, hey, we're gonna save this as a template. And then going forward, I wouldn't have to do anything. I just use this template and everything I just did would be plugged into this template for later on future use. So if you had a specific customer that wanted things done a very certain way, create a template for them. And then going forward, you just say, hey, drawing, template, done. Okay, now this is actually ready to export the balloon PDF drawing and the Excel. So we're gonna go ahead and export that. And I'm just gonna plug this right back into the vault. So let's go ahead and say our project. This is gonna be the bevel gear, inspection, and my FAI packet, just like that. So there's my old PDF. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna save this one right next to it because it's a different one. If I saved over it, I could revise it, Revit using PDM to do that, but we'll just go ahead and save this separate. Let's say okay, make that connection, and then let's do one for the Excel report, and then we'll check it out. So here is another set of templates. So this is the AS9102 template for the exporting of the actual FAI packet. So this is going to be the Excel file that has form 1, 2, and 3 on it with all your data. I'm going to use AS9102. It's going to take all the standard information from that template. And also just keep in mind, we can fully modify any of these. So if it isn't exactly how you want it, then we can make that adjustment. Oops, sorry, wrong vault there. This vault.
That's pretty amazing how fast that inspection process actually happened, Scott. You spent a lot of time explaining all of the different options, but in reality, once you hit balloon the drawing, I mean, it literally took seconds to generate the balloons, capture all the data, and then easily move them into Excel. So, you know, for some of you in the audience, you might not be in the quality group, but maybe you've got a coworker that's generating these kinds of inspection reports. We'd love an opportunity to talk with them a little bit about how they're doing things today, and then maybe there's a fit to look at inspection and find a little faster way to get through it. So now that you've saved that back into the vault, as I understand it, we're going to have David change kind of hats, change roles, whatever. He's going to be now a project manager, and he's going to review that documentation.
Yep. And what he's going to review is this right here. So this is the Excel FAI first article inspection report that we actually saved out of inspection. And we can see there's no results. And so there's a whole process that's going to take place, and then we'll come back through the CMM, push that out, and then we can add results in. But as far as all of our requirements, and this is our full build characteristics that SOLIDWORKS has fully, basically automatically generated for inspection. And Form 1 and 2 is going to include our properties from the drawing and from the part, anything we plug into that process, and we get that full report with a balloon PDF, which is right here. Okay.
Awesome. So we saw how you were able to first get notified from David that you had something to generate an inspection report on. You showed that notification. We talked about that. You're able to check out the file, add your inspection information on top. Now you did this with the integrated tool, but you did say a couple of times, I heard you say that you can also generate these inspection reports in a standalone utility that doesn't require a CAD license off of a PDF or TIFF file. So now that you've generated the Excel inspection report and the PDF of the balloon drawing, that's going to go back to David. And oh, he's looking dapper.
Well, Tim, you see, I changed hat. I'm now a project manager, and I actually took your identity. I'm actually going to log in back in my vault as Tim Newton and project manager, so very professional as you, right? So I'm going to get in my vault, right, as a project manager, get a notification from, you know, my inspection team, you know, inspect bevel gear or something like that. It went, oh, that's the old one. So this one from, you know, Scott sent me like, you know, I want to, you know, approve that inspection. So he's asking me to review that. So it's nice because I get, again, those links from PDM. I can browse right away, you know, where this file is. Let's see, this one. There you go, project 4, that's where we're at. Please review my package. Thanks, Tim, that's me. So I feel good. Here's, you know, clicking on the hyperlink, I get right to the drawing. What's nice with PDM is you can associate files with each other. So not only you get the SOLIDWORKS references, but you get also to create some reference, you know, with your inspection project. You know, we saw Scott, you know, when he did his output, his inspection project got, you know, the Excel sheet, the PDF, they were exported and associated with the project here. What I did is I took the project and associated with the drawing. So it's really nice because, you know, for everybody that wants to have the information, it trickles down from the drawing to all the outputs. Very convenient. So whether you're in engineering, you're in QA, or you're from another department that needs access to the data, you can link all that data all together, which makes it very easy to find anything. And this is the example for inspection, but you have some, you know, example for you know, assembly manuals, for material spec, whatever, right? So all those can be the reference together. So as you know, the project manager right now, Scott asked me to look at this bevel gear here or the result here, I can browse to this really easily. So you can see it will bring me exactly where it is in the FAA packet. I have the Excel sheet. Again, I mean, this is not as important because everybody's got Excel, I guess, but you can still use the preview and PDM to do your review. You can come and look at, you know, the whole inspection report here. I can look at my PDF balloon drawing here. I can see that this measurement here was pretty limited, but as a project manager or as an inspector or as a reviewer, I can do all my job inside this environment. And when I think, you know, this is ready to go, I can do the opposite way. I can use the contains or the where use. So I know that this is being used here, this is being used on this drawing, for example. I'll browse back to there, or I can straight from my contains, you know, advance this drawing to send for release, and then I'm done with, you know, with my process. You'll see that I have some warning here. Maybe these guys have their own process of approval. So right now I'm just gonna approve my drawing and my part for manufacturing. These guys can be in the same workflow. They can be in the same state, or they can be in a separate workflow where it's not an approval, just like the CAD files. So there's a lot of possibility here. Again, my notification, my comments, all that. Before I do that, actually, let me, oh, yeah, I'll put the comment, done. So do this. Oh, I have actually a warning for this one. But before I do that, let me just show you, you know, the approval process that took place in the information that we were able to capture. Because when Scott sent it to me through the workflow, we were able to map more of the steps. My QA approval was from Scott today, right? So all that information comes from the workflow, and you don't have to map it. And once I approve this, it maps this out. So it's that easy. Yeah, so feel pretty good as Tim and doing my review. Right.
Cool. So I'm going to go
It's
ahead.
like it. Oh.
I'm going to go ahead and take it back over and just show that process for entering the results with the inspection standalone software. So I'm going to go ahead and show my screen. And you'll see from SOLIDWORKS inspection, we save out basically the project for the standalone inspection. So the add-in exports to the standalone, we get something like this. So it's the exact same drawing, exact same information, everything we had in SOLIDWORKS. So it's a one-to-one. So there's no, you know, additional steps that have to be done in the standalone software. I'm just going to use this to read in results. So there's a couple ways we can go about that. One, and this is the inspection professional software for reading in these results. If I had some digital calipers, I could click on any of these entries, click in this field, measure it, it would plug that in. I could also go through and start typing manually into these fields to read in those results. And then also, of course, there's a CMM data input. So this is compatible with basically any CMM machine out there. If there's something weird that it's not connecting, we can just customize a template and make that work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back into the vault, into our project here, and I'm going to pull in those results data. So if I come here, and let's say that we have our project, and I have this is a PC DEMIS CMM, so I'm going to read in that data there. What happens is it brings it in, doesn't quite make the connections yet, but I can auto assign that. And as I was talking about just before I actually ballooned that drawing, that you could do a manual ballooning. If I would have done this in a certain order, and then the CMM was done in a certain order, I just say item number and done. It just maps it one-to-one, and I'm done. Or I could say by the type of dimension, nominal value, the tolerancing. This one I'm going to say nominal. And let's go ahead and plug that data in. So just like that, we have our data read in, and anything in the green down here, you see it's passed. So our product manager over there, project manager, he can't decline it. He can't reject it, right? Except for maybe this one here. which is click on that, highlights there. You can see it's just about out of tolerance. So what I can do, we can run this another lot through, add our files. This time, let's see what happens. So just
Yeah,
jump
Scott,
back in.
we'll see if I accept that.
Maybe you'll accept it. We'll see. Okay, well, it looks like you might have to decline it. There we go. Okay, so just give it a second here. All right, so as that's thinking there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read in a second CMM file. What it's going to do is it's going to reference the first one I have, and it's going to connect the two together. And any results that the first one pulled in, the second, the third, the fourth will then take that, it'll read it into inspection, it will match them up. And in this case, the second run did pass. Plug that in, just like that, boom, it's in the green. And what do you have to say about that, David?
I think I'll have to accept it.
I don't think you're gonna have a choice. It definitely passed. But that
right.
way you can run in, 2, 3, 4 runs, and maybe the third one fails. Maybe we want to do 3, best 2 out of 3 wins, and that gives us our pass or fail.
So I took back the presentation here, and I'm actually gonna pass you. I mean, the one thing that I could have done to ask Scott for adding the result, I could have returned for edits and ask him, for adding the CMM result. I think we just chatted about it. He added the one, so now I can go on, change the state, send for release, and get my drawing release and all done. And that's basically, and from here I can notify my production team, I can notify a different team to take it or to get access to the newly generated PDF. But as you can see, again, I have mapped to my workflow who was a design checker, who was my QA approved, and who was my engineering approved. All that without entering any information in the data card manually, just relying on my workflow and my process to map this up.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to take it back over one last time just to wrap it up here, and to be able to see my screen. So really what we did here is we checked out the drawing for inspection, went through, added all the inspection information right within the add-in, exported that, got approval or disapproval on that process, also pushed it out to the inspection standalone. And in the standalone, that allows us to read in that result data. So, that's all stored in the vault. Not only is the drawing and the inspection project, but also that PDF, that Excel file, and data. PDM is going to manage all that data, one source of information, and then from there we can use a CMM to measure those parts that are going through the process of trying to approve these guys for manufacturing, and then we can read that back into inspection and see if it passes or fails, and then store all that information in the vault and keep it revised.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we completed our process. We stored everything in the vault. Again, having a one central location really helped us, not only communicating, because there's other communication tool, but mapping our steps, communicating with where the files are. So it was easy for Scott to go grab those files and start his inspection report. It's easy for me as a product manager or project manager to see all the documentation that pertains to a part, to a drawing, and that's why using PDM to centralize all that data comes very handy when you work with different departments.
That was very interesting. I want to launch a quick poll here just before we sign off. I'm just curious from the audience if there's anything that we can provide you more information on. Maybe there's an opportunity to learn a little bit more about other ways that PDM can be used outside of the design group. One of the use cases, David, we see often is like CAM programmers, right? They might utilize that SOLIDWORKS model to create a relationship to do their CAM programming on, and then actually store maybe the G code. Maybe you're interested in generating inspection reports. You saw how fast that really can be. Now you saw the version inside SolidWorks, but just to reiterate, and I think, Scott, do you see that it's more common that folks in the role of creating the inspection report actually use the standalone version off PDFs? That's been my experience. What do you see?
Yeah, that is, I think, the more common use case. However, it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. If you're doing most of your drawings in SOLIDWORks and you're not receiving drawings from your customers as PDFs, then it might make more sense to do that in SOLIDWORks using the add-in. If you are manufacturing components for other people, other companies as a job shop or something along those lines, then because you're receiving PDFs, you'd be using the standalone more often to use what's called optical character recognition on those PDF files to plug that information into your FAI report.
Makes sense to me. Now, do you have to buy both versions? Do I need to purchase a second copy to use the PDF enabled way?
Absolutely not. You get both. So when you buy inspection, you get both the add-in and the standalone. They're not sold separately. They're a package deal. And the only, I guess, levels of inspection is the standard versus professional. The standard version does everything you've seen today except for reading in those CMM results. You have to go to the professional level in order to then take those results pushed out from the CMM, the digital calipers, other kinds of measurement devices, and read that back into inspection.
Good. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for responding to the poll there. David, do you have any final thoughts about maybe the benefits of centralizing all of that data? There certainly is a lot of different locations that we can put files in, but tends to be separate systems and breaks up the process.
Yeah, the final thought I would have is I kept referring to, being able to have your audit trail and know what happened. I think one of the great things with PDM is it will track everything that happens inside your system, who did it, when, the comments they left, and your revision as it goes up and as things progress. So it's kind of looping back to our little example about, our communication little tool that we have internally to chat. This is great to get some information quickly. PDM is great to centralize your data and to put, all the information, and also to track what happened to that information, to search it, to, to get to reuse your part and eventually just make that your central point of reference for all your documents. That was my final thought.
Appreciate it. Hey, Scott, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I say, when it comes to inspection, you don't want to be, writing things down on paper. Don't want to be scanning things in, trying to manage a whole system that way. It's just too many avenues for something to go wrong. If you enter that information inside of SOLIDWORks already, then you might as well repurpose it. And repurpose that data is the way to really save time, money, and issues from happening in the future.
Great. Thanks, David. Thanks, Scott. I really appreciate you sharing some of the ways that organizations are able to share their data across the org and collaborate a little bit more. You certainly gave us some ways, some things to think about, and some ways that you show that happen. Really appreciate everybody attending another Hawk Ridge Systems webinar, and we look forward to catching you on the next one. Thanks again.